actually, so we're making breakfast quesadillas today, and Henry has actually made these with me before. So Henry will be our experienced pro at this, right? And what I want to make sure is that you've all washed your hands. Okay, good. And I want to make one little change. Instead of cooking our bacon on the stove top, we're going to actually cook it in the oven. So what I want you to do is, if your bacon is in a pan, ask your parent, is that pan able to go in the oven or not? And if not, you're going to need to transfer it to a baking sheet or something that can go in the oven. So right now, what I want you to do is make sure your bacon's on something that can go in the oven, and preheat your oven to 350 degrees. Okay? Okay, so you're gonna preheat your oven, and when your oven is preheated, let me know, because when your oven is preheated, you're gonna put your bacon in for 10 minutes. The reason why we're doing it this way is because bacon has a lot of fat. When you cook fat on the stove, it can get really splashy. And that can feel a little scary because it's hot oil. So instead, we're gonna put it in the oven so that there's no risk of that oil splashing us. Now, I just wanna let you know, I am using bacon that's not made from meat. So some people eat meat and some people don't eat meat. And oh yeah, so Gloria and Sarah are using a version that's not meat either. So can someone tell me what it's called when for what a person might call themselves if they don't eat meat? Evelyn.
A vegetarian.
A vegetarian, yes. So everyone is free to make their own choice if they eat meat and if they don't eat meat. I myself am an omnivore. Does anyone know what that is? Kai.
You eat both plants and meat?
Yes, 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 yes. Plants and meat. I don't really eat red meat, and I love to eat plants as much as I can. And because we have Earth Day coming up in about a month, I believe it's April 22nd. And so I decided to use a vegetarian form of bacon because plants have less of an impact on the environment on the earth than meat does. And so maybe at some point in the future, if you're using meat today, you might try a vegetarian version some other time. But whichever you're using is absolutely fine. I just wanted to tell you because mine might look a little different. So let's start on our eggs, okay? What I'd like you to do is crack 6 eggs into a bowl. You're gonna crack 6 eggs into a bowl, and then we're gonna whisk them around, either with a whisk or a fork. And after you do that, make sure you wash your hands really well, okay? I like to crack my eggs by using a flat surface. I don't use the side of the bowl. I think it's easier to use a flat surface like the countertop. And you give it one good confident whack, and then you use your thumbs to pull the shells apart. So 6 eggs And then you're gonna throw out, or does anybody do compost at home? Sarah and Gloria, do you wanna, can you tell us about that?
Basically, instead of putting some things away, we put them in a container that is our compost, and then we have a bigger compost in our backyard, and when it gets full, we put it there, and then bugs start to like eat it.
So
And what do you use it for after?
how long does it take to become?
And then we can use it to fertilize the compost to fertilize our soil.
Excellent. How long does it take for your compost to become dirt? Or how long until you put it into your soil?
Months.
That takes a long time. And do you grow any vegetables at your house?
Tomatoes.
Yum. Yep, so instead of throwing our food scraps away, it is possible to turn them into soil. All right, so what I want you to do is, you'll notice that when you're cooking with me, I really like to have a dish of salt. A lot of times we have like a salt shaker at our house. I would like you to get in the habit of making a little salt dish for our classes, so you can pour some of your salt in there, because it gives you what I call, great Christine, yep, it's what I call a lot more control over your seasoning. Great, Sarah, excellent. And so what I want you to do is, this is how we season our food. We take our first 3 fingers, our thumb, our index, and our middle finger, and we take a pinch of salt, and then we can add it to the eggs. So I want you each to add 1 pinch of salt to your eggs. If you're using pepper, if you're using black pepper, you can add some ground black pepper now. My pepper mill is still broken, so I'm not using any pepper today. And that is it for the eggs. So we're gonna actually now scramble our eggs. We're gonna cook our eggs on the stove top, okay? So I'm gonna bring you over to the stove with me, and you're gonna put your heat onto medium. You never wanna cook eggs over really high heat, because it can tend to burn the eggs. I want you to notice how the eggs smell as you're cooking them. If you start to smell a really strong smell, it might mean that they're burning a little bit. And so you're gonna put the pan over medium low heat, okay? And add some butter or oil or both, that's up to you. About a teaspoon, 1 to 2 teaspoons of butter or oil. Let's do 2 teaspoons, okay? And have a spatula, okay? So if you've got a spatula, show me your spatula. This is my spatula. Good, Christine, yes. So this rubber, yes, great, Alessi and Gloria and Sarah, and Henry, great. And Lillian, excellent. So a spatula is what will move the eggs around. And as they cook, you'll see that the eggs start to change texture. Oh, Kai, that's great. I love that you took me over to your stove with you. I like to see what you guys are doing at the stove. Evelyn, thank you. That's good. And Gloria, I can see you over there. So as the eggs, how come the eggs go from liquid to solid? So eggs are made of fat. Yes, Kai, go ahead.
Our oven have preheated.
Okay, once your oven has preheated, you can put your bacon in the oven and set yourself a timer for 10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, you'll check the bacon and you can check in with me again. Okay, Lillian, great. I can see your stove. Thank you. Sarah, do you have a question?
So we add our eggs if our pan is ready?
If your pan is ready, please add your eggs. Yes. And when you add your eggs, I want you to be ready and be standing there the entire time with your spatula and be constantly stirring them. So eggs are made of protein and fat. Those are the two what's called macronutrients in eggs. Now the protein, as it gets hot from the stove, it starts to change the shape of the structure of the egg, and that's why it goes from liquid to solid, because the heat changes the structure of the protein. So when you're at your stove, I want you to practice becoming comfortable with the stove. And so what that means is you roll up your sleeves, right? And you're careful not to touch your wrists or your hands to the side of your pan, okay? You're careful not to touch that. And you don't need to put your face super, super close to the pan. If you do those two things, be careful not to touch the hot part of the pan and don't get your face too close to it. You will be safe and you will not get burnt, okay? So what you're doing is you're just mixing your eggs, and can anyone see them starting to form solid pieces? If you can't answer me, I understand because you're busy working at your stove. But
Yes.
yes, okay, thank you. So I can start to see solid pieces forming as well. And once there's no more liquid, that means that they're done, and at that point, I want you to turn off your stove. It's really pretty quick, isn't it? This process is really pretty quick. And so again, we're using medium-low heat so that they cook just right, but that they don't burn. Okay, can you see my pan? If you can see my pan in the video, I have solid scrambled eggs now. I am going to turn off my stove and I'm going to remove them from the heat. So what that means is I'm going to take something like this, which is called a trivet, so that I can put my pan on my countertop. And my eggs are ready to go. Henry, those look good. Those look good. Yep, great. Alessi, Kai, looks good. Lillian, very nice job. I can see it's still liquid, so you got to keep stirring. Got to keep cooking them for a bit. Now, you know, when you're, yeah, Christine looks great. When you're at the stove, you are in control of the heat. That means if you feel like it's going too slowly and you want to turn the heat up a little bit, you may do that. You may do that. It just means that it'll cook more quickly and you have to pay extra good attention. Good job, Evelyn. All right, so we're just gonna wait a moment to get everybody caught up. Now I wanna remind you what we're gonna be doing next is we're going to be cutting our tortillas. So while you're waiting, I want you to get out 4 tortillas, one cutting board, and a butter knife. So you don't need a sharp knife for this, just a regular butter knife is fine. If you're still working on your eggs, do not worry. You're not behind. Keep going. Finish up your eggs. We're going to wait for you. Great job, Lillian. How's it going? Good, Sarah. Yes, good. So please make a good amount of room on your counter. Ooh, looks good, Christine. You already prepared those. Excellent. Please make enough room on your countertop or a table, a kitchen table, that you can spread out all 4 of the tortillas. Evelyn and Lillian, nice job. I know you're getting there. Those eggs will be done very soon. Everyone, if you want to get a sip of water, you can. We're going to wait a minute for me to give you the instructions on the tortillas. So keep doing what you're doing. I'm going to teach you something about taking a hot pan out of the oven, okay? I'm just going to teach you a tip about taking a hot pan out of the oven. When you cook bacon in the oven, you need to be aware that the fat from the bacon becomes oil. And so it's good to have a parent help you take the pan of bacon out of the oven, because the oil, you need to hold it very steady so that the oil doesn't drip on you, right? But in general, if say we were making a cake or muffins and you have to open the oven, whenever you open the oven door, make sure that you don't put your face close to the oven, because then that heat and that steam will make your face really hot and it won't feel good. So you open the oven and you kind of lean back, okay? You open the oven and you kind of lean back and you let the steam dissipate. That means you let the steam kind of disappear into the air. And then you use an oven mitt like Evelyn is holding. You want to show us, Evelyn? Yes, great. So you then use an oven mitt or 2 oven mitts to take the hot pan out of the oven. All right, so that is how you can, so I'm gonna do it right now. I'm opening the oven. My face isn't anywhere near there. And then I'm getting my 2 oven mitts. I have an orange one and a purple one. And now I can take my pan out of the oven, okay? And then you're gonna put it on a surface that can handle the heat, which is usually your stove top, okay? Or a trivet, like I mentioned. A trivet is just like a little, it's like this. It's something that that you can put a hot pan on your countertop. So, it looks like everybody has finished their eggs, am I right? Okay. So we're gonna get your tortillas cut like the shape of a Pac-Man or a Miss Pac-Man right now. So if you're not familiar with what that is, it's a fun video game, and there's a character in it that looks like the tortillas we're about to cut. So what I want you to do is make a nice stack. I showed you this in the video that I sent. I was using paper, which was pretty silly, but I want you to make a stack of your tortillas and put your finger right in the middle. Once you've identified the middle, and you can watch me first before you do it, you're gonna put your knife in the middle and press down to make a hole. And then you're just going to cut from the middle to the edge, okay? And you might need to hold the tortillas down with your other hand as you saw the knife back and forth. You saw the knife back and forth, and now you have this shape, right? Good, Evelyn. And this is like the Pac-Man who goes around and eats all the little circles. Any questions about this? Okay. Okay, great. So now what we're gonna do is your countertop clean? Is your countertop clean? Because we're going to spread out our tortillas on the countertop, one next to the other. Do you have enough room on your countertop to do this, or on your table? If you don't, you can fill one at a time. Okay, I'm gonna check in with how is your bacon doing. If your bacon is done, please type done into the chat box. Done, Sarah and Gloria, okay. Evelyn's done. Henry, how about you? Is it done, the bacon, or is it still in the oven? Hi, Olga. Kai and Alessi are done with the bacon.
It might take me another 5 minutes.
Another 5 minutes, no problem. No problem. Okay, just checking in. Sarah, yes.
If our bacon has come out from the oven, shall we put it on the plate with a paper towel on it?
Yes, please. If your bacon has come out of the oven, you can use tongs to pick it up and put it on a plate with a paper towel. We're gonna let it cool off a little bit because eventually we're gonna crumble it up with our hands when it's not so hot anymore. So if you're using regular pork bacon, it should be pretty crispy by this point. If you're using veggie bacon like I'm using, it's not really as crispy, but that's okay. Okay, so what do we have now? We have, if your bacon is still cooking, it's okay. We're gonna get started on filling our tortillas with the eggs and the cheese. So you're gonna need your eggs, you're gonna need a bowl of your cheese, and you're gonna need a spoon, okay? So let's work with the eggs first. I'm gonna show you, and then you can do the same thing. So you have your tortillas, and we're gonna have the mouth. We're calling this open part the mouth, okay? The mouth for all 4 tortillas should be facing the same way, okay? So I want the mouth of your tortillas facing to the left. The open mouth is facing to the left. Then what I'm gonna do is take a spoonful of eggs. I'm not measuring it, but I'm just taking a spoonful of eggs and I'm putting it on, imagine that your tortilla is divided into 4 equal pieces, okay? 4 equal pieces. We're gonna put it on one of those pieces, the piece that's on top of the mouth. Does that make sense? Please let me know if you have questions about what I'm saying. I'm trying to describe it well, but it may not be as clear as I think it is. So we're putting eggs, this is, the visual is probably the best way to understand. I have the eggs on 1/4 of the tortilla above the mouth. And I'm gonna do that with all 4 tortillas. And what you can do is you can take the back of the spoon and kind of press down a little bit to flatten the eggs out a little bit, okay? To flatten them out and make just an even layer of egg on 1/4 of the tortilla. And the idea here is that we use up all of the eggs and we divide the eggs between the 4 tortillas. So we're not measuring with a measuring cup, but we're kind of measuring with our eyes, right? Have you ever heard anybody say you can eyeball it? Evelyn has, Christine, no. What does that mean, Evelyn?
It means you can just tell by your eyes how much you need.
Yeah, that is a great definition. You can tell just by looking how much you need. Thanks, Evelyn. So we're eyeballing it, okay? And we're gonna do that a lot in this series. Sometimes we're gonna measure and sometimes we're gonna eyeball it. And sometimes we're gonna measure by tasting it, okay? We're gonna say, does this taste good? Or does it taste like it needs more salt or needs more something, needs more lemon? That's part of becoming a wise cook. It's you can taste and tell for yourself if it's ready. All right, so maybe you can show me with your camera what your products look like so I can see where we all are. Okay, Sarah and Gloria looks great. Good, Christine. Good, Evelyn. Yep, and Alessi, Kai, very good. And Lillian, very good. And good job, Henry. Christine, are those homemade tortillas?
They're actually, yes, but they're actually chapatis.
Chapatis. They look so good. Can you tell us what a chapati is?
It is like it's like a tortilla, but you can make it on a pan.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever made them before?
Yes, my mom makes them.
Your mom makes them. And do you know what ingredients she puts in them?
She puts wheat flour.
And water, maybe?
Yeah, water and salt.
And that's it?
Yeah, and then she rolls it and makes it into a circle. Then she puts it on the pan, and then she flips it.
Wow. It sounds quite simple. How cool is that? You can make your own chapati, which is very similar to a tortilla. Maybe one day we can try that.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing, Christine. Okay, so the next ingredient we're gonna add is cheese. Okay, we're gonna add our cheese. Good, yep. And you're gonna put cheese on the other, let me show you where we're gonna put the cheese. The cheese is gonna go right next to the eggs. So that means that the top half of our tortillas are gonna be full. Of topping. So again, we're gonna eyeball it we don't want a mountain of cheese, okay? We want one flat layer of cheese. Because if we have a mountain of cheese, it's gonna come out. It's gonna seep out of the tortilla when we're cooking it. So we're doing one nice flat layer of cheese here. And it should look like that. So my question to you is, how's the bacon coming? Can anyone tell me if theirs is not done yet?
1 minute more.
1 minute, excellent.
1 minute.
1 minute, okay. Excellent. All right, so while we're waiting for that minute, we're gonna leave our tortillas where they are. I want you to get out some maple syrup.
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup. So the maple syrup is optional, but when we fry our tortillas on the pan, I was thinking that we were gonna put down a little bit of maple syrup in the pan so that they have a little bit of sweetness to them. If you don't think that sounds good, you can get the maple syrup. Your bacon is done, excellent. So you can take it carefully out of the oven and then use some tongs to put the bacon on a plate that is lined with paper towels. Sarah, do you have a question?
Should you put some maple syrup in your pan if your bacon isn't in it and you're waiting, and if so, how much?
Great question. So that raises an important point. If you cooked your bacon in a pan, in a frying pan in the oven, we're gonna use that same pan to fry our tortillas. But what you have to know is that the handle of that pan is going to be very hot, meaning that you should not touch it, and that you should put a towel or an oven mitt over it. So you don't need to put your maple syrup in the pan just yet. We'll do that in a moment, okay? So tell me if you're using a separate pan from what you cooked the bacon in, or the same pan.
I'm using a separate
pan. If you're using a separate pan, then you're gonna also need a little bit of oil in there. Or you can use cooking spray. If you have cooking spray, that's a good option. So, I'm gonna show you what we're gonna need to be doing over here before we even do it. So what I said before is, if you're using the same pan that was in the oven, which I am, the handle is really hot. And so I use my oven mitt to hold the handle, right? Because I don't want to touch the handle directly. The other thing you're going to want to have over here is a spatula again. Not the floppy kind of spatula, ideally, but like a metal or a plastic spatula, because that's going to help us to flip the tortillas. The last thing I want you to have is a large plate, okay? So that you can put your tortillas on the plate as they finish. Okay, is everybody's bacon done? Is anybody's bacon not done? Okay, so if your bacon is done and it's cool enough to touch with your hands, you're gonna divide the bacon amongst the 4 tortillas. So what I'd like you to do is, it's going to go next to the cheese, okay? So we wanna leave one part of the tortilla empty, and that's the part that's next to the mouth, okay? So we wanna leave one part of it empty. Please let me know if you have any questions about anything that I'm saying, okay? Sometimes it's easier to explain things visually than with words. So, is anybody's bacon too hot to touch with your hands? Christine, yours is not too hot, good. Is anybody's too hot to touch with your hands? Okay, did everybody, can I see your tortillas? How are they looking? Good, okay, Evelyn, good. So you're just getting ready to put the bacon on. Kai and Alessi, good. Yep, that's how it should look. And Lillian, good. Okay, you got your bacon on there, good. And Christine, looks good, yes. I'm gonna now show you how to fold these. If you were cooking with me last series, you know how to fold these. You might remember from the last, we made the tacodillas. So it's the same way to fold them. If you weren't with me last series, then watch what I'm doing first, and then you can do it after, okay? All right, so I'm going to fold my empty piece over the bacon, and then I'm going to use both hands to lift that piece. Good job, Lillian. And fold it over the cheese, okay? Now I have what looks like this. It looks like this. And now I'm going to fold both of those. I'm going to fold that piece now over the eggs. Does anyone have any questions about that process? What you should have at the end should look like a triangle. Not an exact triangle, more of a rounded triangle. Yes, Lillian, that looks awesome. Awesome, Alessi and Kai, those look great. Okay, and so you're gonna do that with all 4 of them, and then you're gonna bring them over to the stove, okay? In the meantime, I want you to turn the heat on to medium, okay, to medium heat. You don't need to add anything to it yet. I'll get there in a moment, but I want you to start heating your stove up, okay? Start heating it up. Does anyone have any questions about the folding? Okay. All right, so we're gonna heat our stove up. If you're using a pan, you need to have some kind of oil in your pan. So either it's the fat from cooking the bacon, or you can spray it with cooking spray, or you can add a teaspoon of vegetable oil or canola oil or sunflower oil. So you can go ahead and do that now. And if you're using maple syrup, you can add 1 teaspoon of maple syrup. So Sarah, you asked this question earlier. You can add 1 teaspoon of maple syrup. I'm actually gonna eyeball it with the maple syrup. and just add a little drizzle here to the pan. Again, that's optional. If you don't want it to be sweet at all, you can skip the maple syrup. If the maple syrup starts bubbling, that means your pan is hot enough, okay? And so you're going to place your tortillas in the pan. I recommend that you only put 2 at a time because it will be easier for you to flip them. It will be easier for you to flip them if you have a little bit of space there. So I'll show you here. I'm putting 2 tortillas in the pan. And as I put them in here, I kind of press down on the top a little bit. I'm gonna just press down on the top a little bit. Now, you don't need to be afraid of the heat in the pan. You just make sure that you don't get your face too close to it, okay? And if it feels like it's so hot that things are spattering and splashing, just turn the heat down. You're in control, okay? You're in control of the heat. You can always turn the heat down. But we're gonna cook it for about 1 minute on each side. We wanna just leave it there, let it sit there. You can press down on the top with the spatula, but just let it sit there. And we wanna get a little bit of browning on each side of it. So I'm going to show you how I check if it's ready to flip, okay? This is how I check if it's ready to flip. I take my spatula and I put one hand on top of the tortilla just to stabilize it. And I just take a peek. I take a peek on the bottom to see if it looks brown, golden brown. Mine is not quite ready to flip yet. I want it to have a little more browning on it. So I'm going to give it another 5 seconds or so, but this is a part of cooking where you use your eyes a lot. You use your eyes to look and see if it's nice and golden brown.
Were we supposed to add the maple syrup in yet?
Yes, so you want to add the maple syrup to the pan before you start cooking the tortillas in there. If you've already started cooking the tortillas, you can still add the maple syrup now. Okay? Remember, if you start to smell burning, turn your heat down, okay? We don't want burning. We just want toasting. Okay, I want you to see now how I'm gonna flip my tortilla. So if you have the ability to have someone watch the stove for you and step away so you can watch me, please do that. So I'm gonna put my hand on the top of the tortilla because it's not hot. This part is not hot. Then I'm gonna take my spatula underneath my tortilla and lift it up, right? I'm lifting it up. Now I can use my hand to stabilize it and turn it over, and place it back in the pan on the other side. Okay? So you don't have to touch any hot part. I'll do it again here. I'll do it again. So I put my hand on top of the tortilla. I put my spatula underneath and pick it up. Now, holding it steady, I turn it over and I put it down in the pan on the other side. And look at that, it's golden and gorgeous. And now I'm gonna cook it for another 30 seconds or so on the other side. Any questions about this process? Henry, that looks beautiful. So Henry finished cooking his tortillas, and what else do you have on the plate there? It looks like Henry has blueberries and kiwi, am I right? Okay, I better go take my other, all right, so now I'm gonna take my tortillas off because I can see the pan is starting to get smoky. All right. So what advice I want to give to you, if you, because we're finishing up and you might still have 2 more tortillas to cook, right? Do you still have 2 more to cook? Okay, so what you're gonna need to do is either get the help of a grown-up, or if you feel comfortable yourself, you're gonna take some paper towel and wipe out the pan, because that syrup that we put in there is now really hot and we don't want it to burn. So we wanna wipe out, yes, just like you can see Marcus doing in this Alessi and Kai's screen over here, that is exactly what you wanna do. You wanna wipe out the pan and add some new oil and new maple syrup to it for round 2. Does that make sense? Does anyone have questions about that? Thanks, Sarah. Yep, thumbs up. Henry, that looks so good. So the reason why I asked you to get your favorite fruit to eat with this is to have a really nice and balanced meal. Does anyone know what a balanced meal is or what that might mean? Yes, Christine.
It means you get each of the food group things.
Yes, you get each of the food groups. So I like to think of a balanced meal as getting at least 3 of the food groups. So what are the food groups real quick? You can just shout them out. Christine, go ahead.
Protein.
Protein, yep. What
Dairy.
protein do we have today?
Bacon.
And
Eggs. No, not eggs.
Yep, you got it. Yep, you got it. What's another food group we have today? Sarah.
Mine has vegetables in it because I don't like bacon, so instead I put some spinach and tomato, and also we're having produce if you're having fruit.
Yes, so vegetables might be it. So Sarah has vegetables in hers. Fruit is another food group. Yep. What about the tortilla itself? What is that? Anyone know what food group we call that? We call that a grain because it's made of flour, wheat flour. And then we have cheese, and cheese is a dairy. It has calcium in it. So we're getting a complete meal, and the fruit helps us to get a complete meal. You may or may not have vegetables in yours, but at least we still have 4 of the food groups. So that said, I wish you the best with the next 2 tortillas. Henry said it's good. I'm glad that it tastes good. And if you have any photos you want to share with me from your cooking process, you can tag me on Facebook. This is more for the parents than the kids, but you can tag me on Facebook here. I'd love to see them. Or email them to me and I will post them. Any questions? Anyone want to show us your final creations? Yes, let's do it. Let's see those final creations. I'm going to take a picture. If you want your final creations to be in the picture. Beautiful. We've got apples and those beautiful tortillas. All right, so get your, oop, I didn't take it yet. Don't worry. I'll give you a countdown. Looks great, Lillian, with blackberries and strawberries. And Sarah, that looks great. And Evelyn, I can see her at the stove working hard. You can just give us a smile from there if you want to. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Excellent. All right, everybody. That's it for today. And next week we're making French toast sticks and chia seed jam. Oh, Henry, let me get that picture, okay? Since I know you weren't here before. Just give me, ooh, I didn't get it. One, do you want to do it again, Henry, or no? Up to you. Okay. All right, so I will see you guys next week. Beautiful, Sarah. Any questions? Bye, Henry. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Goodbye. Have a great day.